topic, and then there were other things to fund, and the public funding went away. And so the services were severely lacking. So Stolen Youth came together. They formed an advocacy and fundraising organization, and we're 3 years in now. And so we fund a coalition of 4 organizations that we started with, which were Ops Seattle, which Noel is a part of. We also fund Youth Care's Bridge Collaborative, which specifically focused on sexually exploited youth and getting them housing and connected with advocates like Noel. We fund the Center for Youth and Youth and Young Adult Justice, CCYJ. We fund their data collection program, and that's the first of its kind in the state. This is where law enforcement and service providers are starting to track the kinds of cases that are coming in, how old they are. We keep hearing that the average age is about 12 to 14, but I think everyone on this program has said they see girls and boys as young as 11, sometimes even younger. And so our data, we're hoping that this data collection really shines a brighter light on the kinds of cases that are coming in and what we can do in our intervention. The fourth organization that we fund is BEST, Businesses Ending Trafficking and Slavery and Trafficking, and they work with hoteliers and law enforcement and provide trainings on how to recognize victims of trafficking in their establishments, how to recognize the behaviors and patterns that happened in hotels where many of these crimes happen that aren't walking the track, that aren't on the streets, but they're in hotel rooms for a night and customers are coming in and out. How can hotels become a part of that solution? So those are the organizations that were in our coalition to start with, and we've raised $2.3 million over the last 3 years to give to these organizations in grants, and we're excited because this year we actually just added a 5th organization, which is Seattle Against Slavery, and they are working with a high school curriculum to bring to high schools in King County, and it's just 5 days long, but it's what we've been talking about this whole time. It's getting young men to change their attitudes on sex, and it's a curriculum out of Chicago, nationally vetted and developed, and it has really promising results in its first pilot. So we're sort of using the voices that these 12 women knew that they had, their outrage that this is happening in their backyard, and their leadership abilities to raise awareness in the community, to galvanize partnerships from law enforcement to individuals who just want to make a difference, to getting schools, high schools, and colleges to start, clubs on anti-trafficking, to read more books about it, to look for warning signs within their own peers. We believe that it's such a complex issue and there's so many different prongs, and the way that Stolen Youth fits in is bringing everyone to the table and trying to increase funds and awareness so that we can really stop this problem from happening in our own backyard.
Well, one of the reasons why On the Line and Storytellers, we decided to run this series to cover as many levels as possible is because it is huge. It's like there are so many aspects of this. I was very intrigued by the coalition that you formed. It kind of leads to what can the public do? Well, the public also includes business leaders, and actually not just hotelers. I think it includes business leaders of all kinds. The idea of changing attitudes doesn't just include men in particular, but I think also includes prosecutors, legislators, and lawmakers. Something that Dr. Lee touched upon is the involvement of the Catholic Church, and I think that there are other churches probably as well that are deeply involved in this to one degree or another. And I'm running out of things to say on that. Jump in, please, Sophia.
Oh, yeah, no problem. It's actually interesting. In the last 2 months, we've worked with 3 different religious organizations, churches, and multi-faith coalitions, everything from doing a panel to coming in and helping them plan an education summit on trafficking for their congregation in the fall. And the one thing that I think Stolen Youth is able to do, because we have 12 directors who are all volunteer and all connected to the community in a very different way, but united in this issue, is that they're good at getting the right person to speak in front of the right audience. And that often is a Stolen Youth board member, but that's often a Noel, or it's one of the executive directors of the organizations that we fund, or it's a local judge who sees these kids come in and out of her courtroom day in and day out. And people, I think, can't look away once they know. But it's very easy to brush it off if you just hear it in the background noise, in white noise. But if you hear someone like Noel or any of these speakers come in and talk about what they see, the ages that they're seeing, when they're able to paint these children as the victims as they are and not just sort of as this thing that only happens on the other side of the world, people do come together. The King County prosecuting attorney has stood up and said this can't happen anymore. All of these initiatives are happening in King County, and now I'm so delighted to hear in Pierce County as well with advocates on the ground, because people want to do something. They want to make a change. And, yeah, I think you're right, from individuals up the ladders to corporations. We have many corporate sponsors that sponsor our luncheon. We have just a ton of different entry points into this issue. Students in middle school doing projects on it, high schoolers doing school-wide fundraising drives, and then larger political action, billboards around the city, advertising not to buy our kids, billboards up in the airport with a phone number to call if you think you're in trouble or someone else might be in trouble. I think these are all important components of galvanizing a community to say, not on our watch. We're not going to let this happen.
Absolutely. Well, we still have some time left. Sophia, I want to thank you, but please stay on the line. We have a little bit of time left, and the other participants in our program, you've probably all hopefully been listening to all of this. You may have comments or things that you want to mention. Let's go back to Dr. Lee. Dr. Lee, if you're still on the line?
Yes, I am.
And are there anything you want to add? Yes, ma'am. Go ahead,
I'd like
please.
to talk about Backpage for a minute. Backpage donates $1 million to $2 million a year in free advertising to Children of the Night, so that when the kids are on their websites looking at their pictures, Children of the Night pops up in front of them like a virus. And they've been very, very helpful to us in terms of identifying kids throughout the United States. They also are a critical tool for law enforcement. So when you talk about running a Backpage ad and saying you're 13, what you don't know is how many of those people that called were actually cops throughout the United States trying to get the person who was selling the child. And it's a tool for local law enforcement, for vice cops who are very fearful that it's going to disappear, because it's so much easier to pick on Backpage than to sit down and comb bugs out of a kid's head. Right. The other issue is these studies, and I was very interested in hearing about the study that this other organization is doing in terms of numbers, because there are no real hard numbers. Most of the numbers have been made up. Many of the numbers have come from my mouth because UNICEF or National Center for Missing and Exploited Kids have called me and asked me how many, and I see all of a sudden this is a widely accepted number, and I think I'm probably the best person to make an educated guess, but it is not grounded in any kind of empirical research.
Sure.
Children of the Night has 36 years of newspaper clippings of stories of kids having to sell themselves on the streets, as well as videos on some of the biggest television shows here in America, including CBS 60 Minutes and Peter Jennings' World News Tonight. We also have data that we've collected in those 36 years, and we ran street teams throughout the western region. And a statistician from UCLA and RAND Corporation has now undertaken the study of putting together those numbers, seeing how old, what race were the kids, what sex were the kids, because there are a lot of transgender children that are involved in prostitution that are currently locked up in our institutions throughout the United States.
Yes,
so that's also another big concern of mine. And right now I'm faced with an issue with a little girl from Spokane, because we serve kids from all the United States, so I'm bringing into Spokane to testify for the United States attorney, who was pimped by a gang. And her family needs to be relocated, and it's $3,000 to relocate her mom and her two siblings. And there doesn't seem to be any government money available for that. And so where do we go? I mean, these organizations that are funded that are doing this work, where are the funds for the hardcore services that help the children who are forced to stand up in court and testify against these brutal, vile criminals? So if we can't get it out of the government, we go back to Backpage and say, will you help us relocate this family? So I think we need to see that we're all players in the same game. And Backpage is not someone who's pimps. They're First Amendment people. They were the founders of sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Now, maybe they created the problem because of that. But that's where they come from, and that's who they are. If we run them out of business, all of this will go offshore, and there will be no subpoenas. There will be no evidence. Law enforcement loses the tool to be able to call up Backpage and say, I got this guy, he's got a girl in the room, who is he? And they can give him all the credit card information, which is the law enforcement tool that currently exists. So I'm not trying to sing their praise, but I'm trying to say we have to look that they're a party involved in this, and they're part of the solution, not necessarily part of the problem.
Thank you, Dr. Lee. We still have some minutes left. I would like to move on back to Carlyn Sampson and Tasha. Would you, if you folks are still on the line, do you have any comments, anything additional you'd like to add?
Sure, yes. I mean, we have a really great vision in mind for the work that we want to do here in Pierce County. As Tasha said before, it's been long overdue for us to be able to start a program up from scratch where we can provide advocacy support services to these exploited children. And we are developing some great relationships with our juvenile programs right here at the Juvenile Detention Center. We already have an MOU in place with Raymond Hall where we go there every month to do prevention education, and we're now coordinating to receive referrals from them about, youth who are either determined to be at risk of being exploited or who accurately identify as being, currently in the life. And so we're hoping to just continue building those strong relationships so we can get help to the kids who need it. But what we're also looking for is we hope to be able to receive some funding so we can have some short-term trauma-informed, therapeutic-based housing or shelter-type environments to send some of these kids to while they're trying to figure out how to get out of the life or receiving services as they're transitioning out of the life. And we know that we need to develop some more accurate mechanisms by which we accurately identify youth who are currently being exploited, because right now there doesn't seem to be a really sound mechanism by which we can identify those youth so we can start even tracking our own statistics and seeing what the numbers really look like, at least on our home front. So those are just some things long-term wise, some long-term visions that we have in place that we hope to be able to achieve in the coming months and the coming years so we can better serve this population.
I hope so too. We are running out of time now. So
okay.
Now I'd like to thank Dr. Lois Lee, Carlyn Sampson and Tasha, and Noel Gomez and Sophia Sanders. We are very grateful to all of you for being on our program today. I do want to thank our audience.
Thank you.
Thank you all, ladies. Thank you so much, and I mean that. I have a need to thank our audience. I want to thank the audience for tuning in today. I'm urging our listeners to visit the websites of these organizations to learn more of what they do and how you can help in combating this ongoing and growing global tragedy. And it's almost as if you're all in competition for donations. That is not it at all. We are all in this together. I want to urge our listeners to go to online public interest news. You'll find us at www.on-the-line.webs.com. You'll find direct links to the websites of all of these organizations that we've had on our program today. And as always, you can go to our parent program's website, storytellerscampfire.org, click on the show page. And now to our listeners from around the world, this is your host, Rich Gehlhausen, wishing you a good day.
On the Line Public Interest News with Rich Gehlhausen is reminding everyone, child trafficking is a problem which is increasing, and parents, you can help protect your children. Keep reminding them of the 10 safety rules to keep safe and away from harmful strangers. Number 1, use the buddy system and do not walk alone. Number 2, don't take rides from strangers. Number 3, do not hitchhike. Number 4, practice yelling help. Number 5, do not go to a car where an adult is asking you to help them. Number 6, if an adult tries to take you, scream. Number 7, pull away and keep yelling, "This is not my parent." Number 8, never go into a house without your parents' permission. Number 9, if an adult asks you to keep a secret, tell your teacher or your parents right away. Number 10, use a kid's code. Any adult without the family code, do not go with them. Parents, keep reviewing the safety rules. As a public service, the 10 safety rules will be available for free download at ontheline.webs.com and at storytellerscampfire.org.